I
Okay.
don't know. It
We
says
may
it's
be
live
live.
streaming. I'm going over to YouTube and
I was
hitting
going
the
to say,
button.
let's see what it looks like.
If you guys can see me and hear me, it's because I'm live streaming. But if you can't, then there's some kind of, oh my God, it went to the wrong.
Wrong channel.
Well,
Wrong.
not the wrong channel, but it's the wrong show. All
Oh,
right,
gotcha.
so um, get shareable link. Damn it! Why? Hey guys, you're in the wrong place.
Oh, no.
Hopefully they show up over there. I don't know if it's working.
I think they will.
All right. Anyway, if you guys can see us right now, that's because we're live. But it's been a really long time since I've done live stuff, so I don't know if it's working yet or not. So I'm going to close that temporarily. Let's go to this. Okay. It says we're live. Okay, they can see us. I cannot
Sweet.
see the live chat. That's
Me
okay.
neither.
I will just move it. Oh, I can paste the link in Discord for you.
Okay. So I'll just look at it there.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Just mute it.
Okay. You got it.
All right. So that means I don't need that anymore.
Blue Broham said 2 rich videos in a day. This doesn't count. I'm on Nerd Nest.
Any video that has Rich on it is a Rich video.
There you go.
All right. Can you guys see and hear us? Because it's been a very long time since I have done live stuff. And this is the correct, the one that you're looking at, Devat, is the correct one. The other one was a mistake. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah. It's live.
It's live.
It's live.
You know, you guys know how it goes. Let me go ahead and delete that one.
Yeah.
Delete forever. Hopefully I'm deleting the right one. All right. Okay. So I think that we are now live. All I'm going to do is very quickly do that and save. All right. Wish us luck, everybody.
Nice.
We're going to start the actual show in just a few seconds. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Nerd Nest podcast. Hopefully, I didn't just cut myself off with that. For those of you who are watching this after the fact, Rich and I are recording this live because we have been very busy. We haven't been able to talk at all because of Summer Games Fest, Xbox Handheld, Nintendo Switch 2. This has been a crazy week. Hasn't it been nuts?
It's been insane.
It
And
really has.
I
And
chose a
Rich
good
put
week
out
to
2
come back.
videos.
I chose a good week to come back. That's what I'm gonna say.
You really did. For those of you that don't know, Rich put out a couple of videos this week, so make sure that you guys check those out. There will be links in the description down below afterwards. I had everything set up ahead of time, but then I went live to the wrong live stream or whatever, and that messed everything up. But that's okay. That's all right.
It's all right.
We've got
We
a
still
lot to
got
talk
here.
about. What's that, Rich?
I said we still got here.
Yeah, we still got here. We're doing it live, and we've got a bunch of people hanging out with us. So I'm excited to talk to all of you. If you guys have questions about whatever it is that we're talking about today, make sure you shoot those into the live chat. But there's already over 100 people, and I was on the I was on the wrong live stream. So if your message gets buried in all of the other chatters, I apologize. You can use the super chat feature to try and make sure that we see it, but we will definitely be looking at chat and responding. So, Rich,
Yes,
I
sir.
think that we want to start off with the Nintendo Switch 2. You've
Yeah.
got your review video out.
Yeah.
I've got
my
mine
Switch 2
coming
here.
out tomorrow.
I've got
And
J
there it
Sox
is right
case.
there in that very, very bright J-Sox case.
So bright.
So bright. I mean, it's like looking into the sun. But we've got hands on with it. We've been playing video games on it all friggin' weekend. What's your what? I mean, without obviously go watch his video about it, but what do you
It,
think about it, man?
it's fine. I'm gonna spoil the video. You can watch it if you want. Yeah, I think the Switch 2 is really good for what it was intended to be, which is like a Switch Pro, right? But I feel like Nintendo could have done a lot more. And one of the things that I mentioned in my video, just as a like basic, what I think is a basic example is analog triggers, right? Because analog triggers to me kind of embodies what Nintendo could have done to make it feel like an upgrade above the Switch one without it feeling like, oh, this is the Wii U all over again, right? Like it's just gimmicks, blah blah blah. It's just like a sensible upgrade, whereas what we have now is it's just a Switch Pro, which if you honestly even just playing Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, it's really enjoyable, right? It's really nice to have that bigger screen, to have bigger Joy Cons. So I enjoy it. I just don't think. I think that comment, right, that's on your video, it's asking a lot and maybe not giving what it's asking for. That's my take on both the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World, which I think is also good, but just asking a lot, giving a little.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and that comment is a very succinct way to communicate that information, which I really really liked. When so first off, I have been a huge fan of Nintendo's games for a very long time. This podcast, the one that you're listening to right now, that will eventually go out on my RSS feed, started out as a show called Nintendo Switchcraft. It was a Nintendo focused podcast where I would talk about Nintendo news, and I did it live 3 times a week. And I had an absolute blast because I had so much fun experiences playing games on the Nintendo Switch, on the original Nintendo Switch. So I was already predisposed to be excited for the Nintendo Switch. That said, I found a lot of things about this that I'm not a huge fan of, but in spite of all of that, I really like this device and I don't have any regrets for picking one up. But I wouldn't run out and pick one up if I were, unless you absolutely know that it's a device that you want.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Mario Kart because I'm not going to cover that at all in my review of it.
Yeah.
Mario Kart, a lot of people are mad about the price, and I'm just going to completely take price out of the equation and just judge it on its own merits as just a game, because some people are going to pay $80 for it. Some people are going to pay $50 for it. I paid 50, you paid 50. I don't feel like that was I feel like I'm getting my money's worth, absolutely. And I'm having such a blast. How much time do you think you spent in it so far?
It has been the majority of what I've been playing, other than like Super Mario Brothers Wonder. That's the one that I went back to on the Switch one. Um, I want to say I must have like 10 hours now, right? So I've done all of the Grand Prix. I certainly don't have gold 3 stars yet, which I would like to do for all of the Grand Prix and the knockout tours. But I've done completion on all of the Grand Prix and all of the knockout tours. Um, Probably medaled in all of them too, but I don't have like gold, right? And then I've played a good bit of free roam. That is where I'm pretty disappointed is free roam. I feel like they really like this was supposed to be the new thing for Mario Kart World that is above and beyond other Mario Kart games. And it's pretty fun, but it's also pretty empty, right? And so like it didn't it feels in retrospect like Nintendo way oversold what free roam would be. And a lot of people have even mentioned by now it's kind of hard to find free roam, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
you go down to like an icon that just says map.
well, even in the title is like single player, multiplayer, options, something else like on the main part of the menu, and then free roam is like a little text on the bottom right. It's like press plus button for free roam, and it's like, oh, that okay, got it.
Oh, geez, maybe I've even been going to the wrong place because I'm gonna fire up Mario Kart World right now, And like, yeah, so this is the screen that he's talking about. For the audio listeners, I apologize. But if I push down over to here, I've got stickers, manual, and then map. Oh, free roam is plus. I never even looked at that. I always just went into map. I have not actually tried. Is
It's
that
probably the same
different?
thing. No, it's
I
probably the
think
same
it's the
thing.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I hit map and then it just brings up the map and then
Yeah.
I
So it's
pick
the same
which
thing.
place I want to go to. Okay, it's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing. All right. So maybe I'm missing a setting because this is very disappointing. Maybe I'm missing a setting, but is there no multiplayer in free roam?
There is none, which is
What
another
the
because I was
hell?
like literally that is what my daughter and I would play is if we had it is co-op free roam. Like that would be no question. Like we would be playing that. She's 8 years old. And she loves Mario Kart, but she doesn't, she's 8 years old. She doesn't like losing. So like
Right.
she would really enjoy playing free roam with me together. So I think that would be a no-brainer. I do have to go back to the price thing. I can't take it out of the equation, and it's because of what I said in the video. It's that the by pricing it at $80, regardless of how else you can get it,
Hmm.
they Nintendo are breaking the status quo, right? Like they're very intentionally breaking the status quo, even if it's currently the only $80 game. That's their point, right? Is to kind of break that status quo. And I don't feel like Mario Kart World like does that, right? Like if it was, I'm not gonna say GTA 6 because I'm not looking forward to GTA 6 like that. But like if it was Breath of the Wild, right? Like Tears of the Kingdom coming out at $70, that made a little more sense. That was the first $70 game. But Breath of the Wild felt like it broke the mold in terms of gameplay, in terms of like this,
Oh, absolutely.
right? So that if you're gonna break the mold with pricing, I want you to at least break the mold with the game itself. And they flexed the mold a little bit. They changed it up a little bit, but it's still what it's still what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The reason I usually like to take price out of the equation is because when you're looking at how much something costs, $80 versus $70 is different depending on who you are and how much
For sure.
disposable income you have. So that's
For
why I
sure.
always like to really not include that because
Yeah.
for somebody they might spend $80 a game or on a game and they wouldn't even notice. And somebody else might want to spend $50 on a game and they wouldn't eat for a week. So that's why I always try and leave it out and just judge the game on its own merits. But you make some really good points. Um, the tipsy gamer in chat says, "I thought they said you can take screenshots with friends online in free roam."
Is
I
that like
think I remember seeing that too.
yeah.
I don't know. It's like I need to. I've played a lot of it. I've gotten gold on all of the, what are they called? Not the knockout. I haven't done that outside of online, but the just the races, just whatever
Yeah.
the races are called. I've gotten gold on all of those and had an absolute blast with it. And then I've just moved to online. I haven't been doing like single player
Yeah.
knockout because I would just rather play against people. But
Yeah.
I do want to go back and get gold on all of those as well.
Yeah.
Um,
There's something about it. It just feels nice to have that
it,
gold.
yeah, they're absolutely. Well, I'm betting that if you unlock gold on everything, you'll probably get gold Mario or something like that
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
that's something that Nintendo has done in the past. Not that it really matters. Um, but the thing is about free roam, like just like you were talking about your daughter, my grandson was here. We were sitting over there playing Mario Kart, and I was like, okay, this is going to be perfect because he's 3. Like he
Right.
doesn't understand how to play video games. Like he's a lot younger than your daughter, and we sat down and I was like, okay, let's do free roam together. Nope. There was no way for us to do that. So I was like, I guess we'll have to race. And so then I grabbed the controller and turned on all of the assists for him so that
Yeah.
he would be able to stay on the track the whole time. And then we raced and we had a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
then my daughter came upstairs and I put him in free roam. He loves free roam.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
driving around and switching characters and having an absolute blast, but we can't do it together, or at least it seemed like we couldn't do it together. It's really frustrating that that's not
Yeah.
an option. I hope that I'm wrong about that.
No, I've seen other people echo that you can't do it. So unless there's some very hidden option, yeah, I don't. I will say I imagine that like just like Mario Kart 8, this is a game that's going to be developed on for a long period of time.
Oh yeah.
You know, not just DLC, but also like free updates and stuff like that. So that's cool, but I still would very much adopt like the MKBHD thing, where if I'm reviewing it, I'm reviewing it as it is now, right? We can talk
Yes.
about what it will be in the future, but right now we're what it is now. I don't think it's just what I said. I don't think it breaks the mold, like the $80 price breaks the mold.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mouse mode real quick. Have you done much with mouse mode on the Switch 2?
No, I'd like to. I what I did was I tried the Game Builder Garage demo. So Game Builder Garage is a Switch 1 game,
Hmm.
and I didn't realize that they were going to I mean, it makes sense, but they were going to support Switch 1 or support mouse mode in Game Builder Garage. So it's pretty cool that they did that. So I just tried the demo, and yeah, it kind of works like you'd expect, right? Like you can move the pointer around in the like blueprint section when you're moving around like nodes to say, I'm going to program the B button to do the jump. You just drag the node over. So that's pretty neat.
What do you think about the comfort of using the Joy-Con
Yeah,
as a
it's
mouse?
okay. It's all right.
Oh, I think
I,
you're being generous. That is uncomfortable as
yeah,
hell.
yeah. It's no, and even this is not a high bar, but it's no like Logitech. What are they called again? The not
Like
Logitech, the
the
Lenovo, the True Strike controllers.
oh right, yeah.
It's not as
That
good
is
as
more comfortable, but that's
yeah.
also awful.
That's the
Like,
thing. It's not even like yeah, it's not a high standard.
yeah.
Uh, I heard that it's the Switch is compatible with like other mice. Like
That's what I heard too, but I haven't
okay,
tried that.
yeah,
I don't have a corded mice or mouse anywhere. Everything's
yeah,
Bluetooth, and
yeah.
I didn't want to fight with Bluetooth to then get it repaired to my computer at the same time. So I was just
Yeah.
like, ah, screw it.
There's
I
only
mean,
so many
yeah, go
games,
ahead.
right?
Yeah, like right now, I think the one that you mentioned, Game Builder Garage,
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077, Fortnite. Those are the ones that
Right.
I definitely know have access to mouse mode, but
Don't forget
I'm not
Welcome
sure
Tour.
about the others. Oh, yeah. Did you buy Welcome Tour?
Heck no. Not a
No.
chance. Yeah.
I feel a little bad that I didn't buy it
Yeah.
because, as a, reviewing it,
Right, right.
but I was like, I'm not giving them money for their instruction booklet. And get this, apparently there's achievements in that game, right?
Mm.
Okay. In order to get all of the achievements, you have to have a camera.
Oh,
In order to get all of the achievements,
oh dear.
you have to have a 4K TV.
Yeah.
Because there's things that it shows you like on the screen, so it's like, okay, was this 120 hertz or 120, or was this 60, or was this 30, or whatever it was. And like apparently there's like achievements in the game, complete all of the mini games on a 4K TV or something, or do this thing that helps you figure out if it's 4K or not. That makes it a pretty expensive game if you are somebody who cares about chivos.
Yeah, no kidding. I
Yeah.
I happen, I have three TVs in the house. And the two that I just happened to buy later, those are 4K, but the first one is still 1080p, and that's actually in the main room, right? Like where we watch TV is a 1080p TV. So where we're playing Switch happens to be a 1080p TV. So we wouldn't get that achievement.
No, you would not. And that's very dumb.
Yeah.
That's
Super
very
dumb.
dumb.
Yeah.
All right. Just what do you think about ergonomics of this thing?
That was a big sticking point for me in my review, right? So like, and I'm calling it a review, but really it was just a video of the things that I think Nintendo could have done to make it feel like an upgrade, right? And I think the ergonomics is a big one. It's still very uncomfortable for me to hold after 20-ish minutes, right? Like the first 20 minutes, no big deal, but
Hmm.
once I'm 20 minutes in, it's just I don't want to anymore. And the to me, this is a solved problem, right? So, and I don't necessarily advocate that Nintendo should have switched to Joy Cons, but at least they could have given other options. So the PS Portal, I said, is my favorite handheld to hold by far. I love the size of the screen, I love the weight, and I love those controllers on the handheld. So I would have loved to see something like that from Nintendo. Hori had the split pad pros in the last generation, and those are kind of
Right.
like bigger, bulkier, whatever, with the real D pad and everything. So certainly we'll see the third party kind of do the same thing. And also Nitro Deck was another thing we saw late last generation with Switch. So I'm sure we're going to see that too. But Nitro Deck is really nice in terms of ergonomics. And I would have liked to see Nintendo have one of those sort of options, like as a first party thing.
Yeah, Mojal in chat is saying you can get some grips to fix that. And you're absolutely right that you can 3D print grips or you can buy them. It's just it's when you are buying a device, also buying extra stuff on top of that is always a little bit painful. You mentioned what were the ones that you mentioned the Joy Cons
The
split
Split Pad Pros.
Hori, yeah, the Hori
Yeah.
split pad. I had those; those are fine. But then I got my hands on these. For the audio listeners,
Nice.
I apologize you can't hear or you can't see it, but it's the MOBA pad. Um, these are fantastic. They're for the original. Oh, it's not in focus. They're for the original Switch, and they are big and thick and chunky and really, really comfortable to hold. I am really looking forward to when MobaPad puts out one like this for the Switch 2 because this is going to really change how I use it.
Yeah.
I've been playing it mostly docked.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would love, and that's the thing. I've been playing it dock too, and even the grip, like the grip that you put the Joy Cons into, it's fine. It's much better than playing on the Switch 2 itself. But I really just want like full on kind of pro controller style
Hmm.
controls. But I also don't want to go out and buy a pro controller because I will play handheld, right? So I want either
Right.
like Nitro Deck or kind of those MOBA pads, something like that.
Yeah. The Cranky Hermit in chat says D-Brand Kill Switch will be released later this month for those who pre-ordered. I have one. It's
Nice.
really nice. I talked about it in my first impressions video, so make sure that you guys check that out.
Nice.
It's a very, very nice case, but that's not a huge surprise because we've all used the D-Brand one for Kill Switch for Steam Deck and
Yeah.
ROG Ally and all that stuff. They make really good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Real high quality.
Yeah, x86 to go in chat says Nitro Deck style won't work on Switch 2 because it slides on.
Yeah.
That's something I never thought about. I guess you could do it modularly.
Right, like the flip grip, which I also showed off in my video. The flip grip was the thing where you put the Switch 1 in vertical style and
Mm-hmm.
you connect the Joy-Cons.
Tate.
Yeah, Tate, and you connect the Joy-Cons to that. So in that case, the Joy-Cons weren't connected to the Switch, so they weren't like getting battery charge or anything like that, but they were wirelessly connected to the Switch, right? So you could still play, and it would hold it all together. So yeah, I I know that is it CKXD that works on the Nitro deck. It's either CKXD or CKRD or something like that. I
That
know
sounds
that they
familiar, but I don't know.
yeah. So someone has asked them if they're working on a follow up. They said they're working on it. So I don't know what form it'll take, but yeah, I kind of look forward to seeing what they do.
Same.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that you want to talk about for Nintendo Switch 2 before we move on to the next topic?
You saw they announced Splatoon Raiders, right?
Oh, okay. So we
Yeah.
were at trivia last night. We went
Yeah.
out to trivia with some friends and family last night, and my son, between rounds, because you can't have your cell phone at trivia, between rounds, he pulls out his phone and he shows it to me,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Is that real?" And I didn't know if it was real or not. Is it real?
Yeah, it's real. I don't
Oh
think they
man.
did a good job of explaining what it is. It's some sort of spin-off. So it kind of looks like action adventure
Okay.
spin-off, but
I love Splatoon.
I do too. Splatoon is
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So I'm
Especially when you have the two Joy Cons split and you're playing like 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 this
yeah. Yep.
because you can aim with gyro with the right and then the left you don't have to move around. It's just a very comfortable way to play. And
Yeah.
then once you put on the little the little grips, it's even more comfortable to hold in your hand when you are just holding it like that. Um, what do you think of before we get back to Splatoon? What's it called? Splatoon what?
Raiders.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Whenever we get back to Splatoon Raiders, what do you think about these? Like just holding them single in your hand with the little grips on there.
I done too much only for like recording videos, right? Like that's a good way to record a video where you can get the
It is.
screen and yeah, yeah. But I don't think I've done too much of that. it's so like the Joy Cons to me are still kind of the least comfortable part, but holding them separate than the handheld is more comfortable than holding them with the handheld. But yeah, I don't know. It's still pretty uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one gripe about this is the ones on the Switch One, you could there was a screw that you could take out, and then
Oh,
you could
really?
pull the lanyard off without cutting the lanyard.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
I have
gotcha.
no use for this lanyard. I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't do the waggle stuff very
Yeah.
often. And even if I did, I'm a grown up. I'm not going to throw this across the room. Although in my first in my first impressions video, I
That's
chucked
right.
I chucked this one across the room because I had it in the Joy-Con grip, and I
Yeah.
was like, I wonder if I could just yank it out of here.
And
You really have to yank on it in order to get that to pull off of
yeah.
there, and it
Yeah.
went flying out of my hand. And so I was like, okay, well, I tested that. And
I was
it's fine.
surprised how many of you guys really did that. Like just like yank on it. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, and you do it for science, right? That's why
For
you do it.
science,
But
that's
but
right.
like I didn't want to risk it, man. That's $500. Jeez. Yeah.
Well, more, yeah,
450,
yes, it is
right?
$500 plus
Yeah.
then the tax on top of it. So,
Yeah.
you know, it blinded me with science. I couldn't help it. Listen, I teach science. I had
There you
to.
go. Yeah.
All right, let's move on and talk about before we talk about all of the Summer Games Fest stuff, which I absolutely do want to talk about. We got to talk about the Xbox dropped a bomb,
Yeah.
and I was not anticipating that they would. Like I kept just thinking, okay, it's just been rumor after rumor after
Hmm.
rumor. Eventually, these rumors are just going to die off. It won't be nearly as interesting as we think it's going to be. It is as interesting as I was hoping because it really looked, and I could not care less about the hardware. I mean, I'll try out the hardware and make a
Yeah.
video about it and talk about it, and maybe it'll be awesome. But what I'm really interested in is the updated Windows and replacing Windows on a gaming system so that it doesn't have all of the cruft that is there that kind of gets in your way.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, um, and we'll come back to like viewer questions later on in the video for the people if you're asking questions about the Switch 2, we'll come back to it. Um, if you Wow, I forgot where I was going with this because I got distracted. Where was I?
Xbox handheld, and the
Yes.
software, being particularly excited about the software,
Yes, the
right?
software. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you are playing on a Windows system, UAC prompts get in your way,
Yeah. Yeah.
launchers get in your way. All of these things where you sometimes will have to either reach over and touch the touchscreen, not fun, or you have to grab a mouse and keyboard, especially if I've got my PC hooked up on my
Yeah.
TV over there.
Yeah.
Not a good experience. It's bad. It always frustrates me every time that I have to do it. If you're sitting at a desk, it doesn't matter. But I want to make my PC a console so I don't
Hmm.
have to touch a keyboard and a mouse. And it seems like that's what Microsoft is doing. And then on top of that, they're also getting rid of some Windows stuff in order to make the system run better. And that is very exciting to me. What did you think about this? I haven't had a chance to watch your video about that yet.
Yeah. So even going back to kind of what you initially started with about being like sort of forgetting about it for a while because like who knows, there's been so many rumors, who knows what they'll actually show, things like that. Even now I'm still pretty dubious, right? I think it looks great. I think that the trailer that they did as well as the behind the scenes feature that they did all gives great info, but I am still dubious, right? My video is very positive, and that's because a little behind the scenes. Usually when I do these videos, like I kind of go in waves, right? The first wave is just the excitement. I think it's time to focus on, what is exciting about this. And then the second wave is like, what do I feel a little bit questionable about? And what am I worried about? And then the third wave is the actual review, right? And so in this first wave, there's a lot to be excited about. Everything you said, the fact that they're hopefully cutting down Windows RAM usage, cutting down things that are actually running, and having a controller first interface, right? That is so important. And the hardware ties into that a bit, even though, like you nailed it. I'm not super excited about the hardware. It looks great, but what excites me more is the software. But the hardware ties into it a bit because there's the Xbox button, right? How will they incorporate the Xbox button into the software? Will they have Xbox button shortcuts like Steam does, where I can hold Xbox plus RB and take a screenshot, or hold Xbox plus LB and toggle the magnifier? Will they do that sort of stuff? And now that they have a handheld with an Xbox button on board, maybe they will. The other thing is that this handheld, the ROG Xbox Allies, I hate these names. I don't know
Oh,
that
it's
there's a better
so
name, but I
bad.
hate these names. The Xbox Allies are going to have apparently gyro in them, just like the ROG Allies, right? So it's not necessarily surprising, but my question is Microsoft going to support that at like an X input level, or is it going to be like the RLG allies are today, where there's no the RLG ally is the software, or Asus
Hmm.
develops that software that supports gyro plus controller together, right? So if it's the former, then that'll be a big improvement over time to sort of the quality of life of having that built in. So that's what I'm looking forward to. A lot of people are also mentioning Windows updates because they didn't talk about that. Microsoft didn't talk about how the Windows updates are going to be. So will they be? Will I get to choose when to do the update, or are they going to be prompting me all the time, like, "Hey, there's an update available, and we'll restart in 10 minutes." So hopefully they let you choose, just like Steam Deck does, just like Linux does effectively.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So to answer, not to answer your question, but to respond to your question about gyro and controls, like when for those of you who don't have access to a Windows handheld PC that has gyro, basically the gyro is mimicking a mouse, and it doesn't do it in an elegant way. It's always kind of iffy, and usually there's also issues when you are playing a game, and this happens on Steam Deck and Steam OS as well. But when you go to play a game, and that game does not support simultaneous keyboard and I'm sorry, simultaneous controller and mouse, what happens is when you are engaging the gyro, all of the on-screen commands change to keyboard buttons. And so it will be like press F to do this because the gyro is working. You take your thumb off the gyro, or off the whatever it is that's turning the gyro on, and you press a button, and all of the prompts on screen switch over to what it's like on a console, button prompts from your gamepad. It's a terrible experience to do that, and I hate it when that happens. So I really hope that Microsoft I hope that this is a signal that Microsoft is planning on implementing actual gyro in their systems moving forward, because if they do, right now they are the only holdout. They're the ones that are holding everybody back from having gyro as like a
yeah,
first, like
standard.
a main way to interact with games.
Yeah,
Because you know what, the developers will say, well, if half of our audience can't use this feature, why would we bother to do a good job implementing it? And that always feels bad. So I really hope that they do, but I don't think that they will. And here's the reason why. If you watch that video where they're showing off like the UI,
yeah,
and they press that button that's not the Xbox button, it's just it's up
yeah.
and to the
The
right of the Xbox button. It
I think it's the
launches
armored
Armory
crate.
Crate.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Right.
think it's the armored crate button. Yeah,
Well, and it is literally launching Armory Crate stuff. Like it's the same
yeah,
layout that you
yeah,
already saw. So I feel like they're not really doing a cohesive UI that's going to be the same across all devices that are installing this software. Because if I install this version of Windows on my PC over there, or on my Lenovo Legion Go, is that going to fire off Armory Crate when I push a button on there? You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and one I think it was the LTT video, the Linus Tech Tip video. He said that the Xbox button would be used for both, like game bar and armory crate. Like my thought is he must have gotten that wrong because that seems weird, right? Like you have the armory crate button there, so make the Xbox button be the game bar button, make the AC button be the AC button. So I don't know, but hopefully they figure that out.
Well, I think that what he was saying, and I don't remember, but I think what he was saying is when you press the Xbox button, you have like the game bar that pops up and it has
Yeah,
all of these different tabs, and one of those tabs
is
is
the
Armory
armor.
Crate.
Got it.
But
Okay.
then there's also a button that launches straight to Armory Crate, which is also part of the game bar. So that's completely wasted. Just
Yeah.
get rid of that extra button. Either get rid of it and take it off of there. They're not going to do that.
No.
Instead, make it so that you can do other things with it. Like if I push that button in A, screenshot. If I push the Xbox in A, I don't know, multitasking, that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder then, like, if the Armory Crate has its own tab in the game bar, will other manufacturer softwares have their own tab in the game bar? Will Lenovo Legion Space have its own tab in the game bar when there's like an Xbox Legion Go?
I hope not, because Legion Space is
It's trash.
disappointing. Like it's look,
Yeah.
it's not Lenovo's fault or Armory Crate's fault that their implementation of trying to get around Windows bad UI,
Yeah.
it's not their fault that it's bad. They're putting a band-aid on it, and what we're asking is that Microsoft will get rid of the band-aid and stitch this baby up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
It's not their fault, but yeah, it's a problem.
it is a problem, and
Yeah.
they can't really solve it. They can do as
No.
much as they can, but I don't think they can go as far as Microsoft can go. It does seem like Microsoft is willing to try and get this good unified experience where you don't have to pick up a mouse and keyboard, and you could just input your, like, you could put in a pin in order to log into your computer,
Yep.
and you can do that the same way that you do on an
On a Steam
Xbox
Deck.
or whatever. I think that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the in my mind it's the Steam Deck pin input, right? So I like that input style.
Hmm.
I'm glad they're doing it, and it just makes sense, right? Because if I'm on a handheld, I don't want I obviously I'm not going to plug in a keyboard, so my options are like the virtual keyboard, which I'd rather not do. And when I use the virtual keyboard, I have to use my like fingers on the touchscreen, which I'd also rather not do. I don't want to
Right.
like mess up my screen, right? So,
I hate touching the screen on anything.
yeah.
It drives me crazy getting
Yeah.
fingerprints all over it. And then I constantly am like, every time I use my phone for 15 seconds, I'm like wiping it off on my shirt because I want the screen to look crystal clear. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the same way, and so I don't want to touch my PC handheld screen. I want to leave it alone. I touch
Yeah,
the
exactly.
controls. Yeah,
So there's two versions. For those of you who aren't aware, there's two versions of this Xbox handheld. The with an awful name. There's the Xbox Ally and then the Xbox Ally X.
yeah.
And I'm surprised that they didn't do Xbox Ally S and then
Me too.
X. That
Me
was
too.
surprising, but
Yeah,
maybe they're getting rid of S because it has a negative connotation when it comes to
that's a good point.
when it comes to the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Um,
good point.
but there's two of them. One of them has the Z2A
Yes.
chipset, which I guess Dave 2D said was roughly about the same power level, a little bit more powerful than the Van Gogh chipset that's in the Steam Deck. And then the other one has the Z2 Extreme chipset, and he said that that one is roughly 15% more powerful, which is not a huge spec bump, but it is a spec bump.
Yeah,
And then you also have the fact that this has the more expensive version has 24 gigs of RAM versus 16 gigs of RAM. The RAM is 8,000 mega transfers per second versus I think it was 6,500 mega
oh, I
transfers.
didn't catch that difference.
Yeah, it's faster RAM and it's more
Oh,
RAM.
okay.
Also has their weird triggers that are good, but not as good as on PlayStation. And I'm trying to think. Oh, more storage as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I like the differentiation, and I
Hmm.
like that the Ally X, the Xbox Ally X, feels like a significant upgrade. I'm curious about.
Over the Xbox Ally, you mean?
Correct, right?
Okay.
So like certainly it's going to cost more, but it seems like the difference in price is worth it if you have that, if you're willing to spend that extra money, you're going to get, your money not back, but you're going to get something for that money by spending that extra. And so a couple of things I'm curious about. I don't remember the Z2A ever being officially announced. I know we've seen leaks about the Z2A,
I
but
think you're
when I
right.
look at like the line of Z2 chips, I think it was the Z2E, the Z2, maybe
Just
Z2E,
Z2. Oh,
just
Z2
Z2,
Go.
Z2 Go, and maybe there was one more, but I don't remember it being called the Z2A. But if this is really like the successor to the Van Gogh, does that mean that like Valve does not have a lock on it? I don't know that Valve has a lock on it now, right? But like clearly they are the only ones that have been using this chip that they have access to.
Hmm.
None of the other Steam Deck PC handheld competitors used Van Gogh. They, went with the Z1E or the Z1 Go. I think it was that's why you're thinking Go, right? It was
Yeah.
Z1 Go. Um, so like
No, it
it's
was okay. So there was a Z1, there was a Z1 Extreme,
goddamn these
and now
names.
with the new system, it's Z2,
Yeah.
Z2A, Z2 Go, Z2 Extreme.
Yeah.
I think.
I think. Okay. All right. This is where we need Kerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do wonder what was the deal with. I mean, we'll never find out, but what was the deal with like Valve and AMD? Was there an exclusivity, something? But it's curious to see that now this chip will be available, and if that's the case, then finally I think we'll see real competition in that, like not just battery life, but low power envelope
Hmm.
performance, right? So like I can I can play Dead Cells at 4, 5, 6 watts and get incredible battery life on 50 watt hours because that's the battery size of the Xbox Ally X right now, 60 watt hours. So bigger than the Steam Deck OLED.
Hmm.
So if I can
And well,
get,
the Xbox Ally X is 80 watt
yeah,
hours.
sorry, the Xbox Ally, the
Okay.
white one,
The white
is
one.
60 watt hours, which is a
Okay.
bigger capacity than the Steam Deck OLED, which would be
Hmm.
pretty nice if you're getting the same throughput at the same TDP.
Yeah. So when I think about TDP, because I did a video where I did benchmarks of all of my handhelds that I have, and both running SteamOS and running Windows. SteamOS beat Windows almost all the time, with the exception of the Asus ROG Ally X. um, but that's because I did all of my tests plugged in, and on that, when you have it plugged in, it automatically boosts up to 30-watt TDP. So it did a little bit better than the other versions. That being said, when you are running SteamOS versus Windows, you are what's the word I'm looking for? You are able to control TDP a little bit more on SteamOS than you are on Windows, because you could just hit the quick access menu, go into your performance settings, head on down to the TDP slider, and just crank it all the way down. I really hope
Now,
that
is
we
that
have
SteamOS or Bazite?
SteamOS, literally
Got it.
SteamOS,
Got it.
pre-installed on the Lenovo Legion Go S.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, this is running Windows, which they said that they're freeing up RAM and that the sleep will sip the battery instead of chug the battery, which is all great. But at the same time, how much control do we have over TDP? Because when you are looking at most Windows devices, first off, there's two different ways to control TDP. That is confusing. You can adjust the GPU and you can also adjust the CPU, and it's never super clear. Like, what should I do here? What should I do in this case? What should I do for that? On the Steam Deck, it's just one single slider. You slide things back and forth, and you see the frames per second on like your little counter. That makes it so much easier for you to troubleshoot and figure out, how am I going to get the best performance out of this particular game. And I worry that the Windows version, especially because they're using Armory Crate and not a like their own, like rolling their own solution, that we won't be able to have as fine control over TDP.
I yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I think that I'll say for a lot of those instances, I still don't really use, like, I will switch between like low, medium, high, whatever that is on the, Legion Go, the Ally. I will switch between the low, medium, high, but I don't really care too much about like I need this TDP. So like, which I know a lot of people do care about, right? Like Steam Deck HQ pretty much is that, right? Like we are going to not just fine tune the TDP, but also like the CPU clocks and the GPU clocks. And so, but also, right, there are a bunch of tools that have existed forever on Windows. So I expect that you'll be able to do that. I don't know how, who knows how that's going to work with the Xbox experience for handheld, right? Like the game mode of Windows. Certainly, I think if you boot back out to desktop mode, you're going to have access to whatever tooling you would normally have access to.
Mm-hmm.
But in Xbox experience for handheld, we don't know. We don't know what it's gonna like, what processes it's gonna kill, and then what options you have to not kill some of those processes if you don't want to.
Yeah, and I wonder if as soon as you boot in, if there is a way to boot into desktop mode on this, as soon as you boot into desktop mode and it starts loading in all the Windows stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you hit return to gaming mode, like we kind of
Will
do,
it keep it all?
does it keep all that stuff? And suddenly
Yeah,
now you're going to have some performance issues on more demanding games. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
All right, let's
The-
talk. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's gonna be tough for Microsoft to manage that, right? Like I am excited
Hmm.
just that they're trying, right? Like that's what
Yes.
I'm excited about, that they're trying and that they've made enough progress that they are happy to talk about it. But under no delusion that this is easy. They have a
Right. No.
long road ahead of them, and they're going to have to remain invested in this over that period of time, right? It's not just this next 6 months up to when they're releasing the Xbox Ally, but we see what Steam OS has been from when we received it to now
Hmm.
3.7 point whatever, right? It's had a lot, it's gone through a lot for it to just reach the point that it's at. And it's going to be the same for Windows. And Xbox is going to have to deal with working with the Windows team, not just now, but on a continued basis.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That dog in chat is asking about screen size. I want to get back to that soon, but first, I want to think about
He got that
two.
dog in him.
That's right. I want to. I don't know. Is that like a reference to something? Because I'm not chronically online.
You should, yeah, yeah, effectively, yeah.
Okay,
It's a
there you
it's a
go.
thing we say, you got that dog in him.
I'm an old man. I don't know the slangs.
Yeah,
But as we were talking about this, I was thinking to myself, what's the price of these things going to be? Like when we look at the white one, and I'm just going to call them the white one and the black one because it's easier to keep track and not trip over my words. The white one, do you think that that's going to, I assume that they will try and get very aggressive with the price because Microsoft is backing this and it has Xbox in the name.
yeah.
If it comes out as the same price as all the other PC handhelds that we have access to, which with the exception of the Steam Deck started around 600 bucks, 700 bucks, 800 bucks, if it's in that range, it's going to be a no-go. But if it's cheaper,
Yeah,
that's the entry point.
yeah,
That lets them put on the marketing starts at
yeah,
this price.
exactly.
How aggressive do you think they'll get, Rich?
Well, yeah, you were saying you think they'll get aggressive. I was just about to ask you what is aggressive, right? So like you were saying $600. Do we think 500, because 500 is under 600 clearly. Do we think $500 is, would we call that aggressive in a world where there's a $400 Steam Deck? I know
I
we have to talk about tariffs too, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I I would prefer to just the tariffs affect everybody kind of equally,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna kind of leave those out
Yeah.
unless you really want to talk about them because we don't
There's
know
a
what's
there's
going
a
to happen with
reason
them and they
I'm
change
going
every
to have
15
to
seconds.
no, but there's a reason I'm going to have to bring them up. I'll
Okay.
explain in a minute. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would really like to see them match the price of the Steam Deck and match the price of the Switch 2
Yeah,
because 400 that the cheapest Steam Deck, the LCD one with 6, do they even sell the one
two
with 64 anymore?
256 now.
All
And
right, so
it's
the LCD one with 256, which is not enough storage, um, that is 400 even, right?
yep, 400
Okay,
even.
and then the
And then
Steam
and the
Deck
Switch
or the Steam Deck Switch 2 is $50 more.
450.
That's
So
really aggressive. I think that that would be a good ballpark.
uh, I think the most aggressive that we could possibly see on the Xbox Ally, the white one, I think is 499. That's the lowest I would expect them to go, which I do think is pretty aggressive. Again, when you compare to RLG Ally when it launched, you
Hmm.
compare to Lenovo Legion Go when it launched, 499 is it seems pretty aggressive, and being only $50 more than a Switch 2, that seems like a pretty good deal, right? You get a full ass PC. Pardon my French, but you get a full PC, right, for for only $50 more than a Switch 2. Um, I can't, man. Steam Deck is so. Have you heard that the Steam Decks are selling out? Like they're running out of inventory?
No,
Yes. So this is
I'm
why I
telling
have.
you, this week has been insane.
Yeah.
So I've barely even seen any news about anything. So I
Yeah.
missed that. Tell me.
So in the US and I think in Canada, they have run out of at least one model. I'm looking it up now to see if that's still the case, but earlier this week that was the case. And so they did put up like a notice that basically said they're out of stock of both the OLEDs.
Wow.
So you can currently not buy a Steam Deck OLED in the US and probably in Canada. I'm on the page right now. That is insane. And obviously that's because of tariffs, right? And so they said if you click the show details a little bit below where you are, if you're on the, I don't know if you're, oh,
It's
you're on
just a
Reddit.
screenshot. I'm on
Okay.
Reddit. It's just a
Okay. So
screenshot.
there are some additional details that they give. They said temporarily out of stock in the US and Canada as we adapt to recent supply chain constraints. We
Hmm.
anticipate being back in stock by end of summer. And here's the kicker, currently expect prices will remain the same. We'll update here as soon as we have more clarity on what the timeline will ultimately be. Now, I'm really, really glad that they put this like notice on there that they expect to be back in stock by the end of summer, because if I didn't see that, I would be really, really scared right now. And what I mean by that
I know what
is,
you mean. Can I predict what you
yes,
mean by
please,
that?
please, please do,
Okay.
please do.
So here's what I think Rich means by being scared. The tariffs made Valve say, this is not worth it. We can just ship SteamOS on other hardware and we're done with hardware. No, thank you. How close am
Nailed it.
I?
Nailed it. Because in history, Valve with hardware, they stop as soon as they reach any friction, right? Like any like
Yeah.
they the Steam controller, they got
Hmm.
sued for what was it?
The back paddles.
The back paddles. They got sued for the back paddles. And they could have made a different Steam controller, but they were like, "Nah, we're good.
Yeah.
We don't want to deal with this. We're done." And so before I saw that they had responded, I was like, this could be enough for Valve. This could be enough for them to be like, we're good. We did what we wanted to do. We're out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can absolutely see that.
yeah. So I'm also happy to hear that prices are going to remain the same. That's pretty exciting. Um,
Well, they hope.
yeah,
Didn't you say they
you're right.
hope?
You're right. You're right. They currently expect prices will
Yes.
remain the same. So you're
Yeah.
right. They could change. Um, so I think that plays into what we have to expect from Xbox Ally. I don't think that Xbox is going to be able to compete at 399. I don't see it. So I think in my mind, the lowest they can go is 499. And if they hit that, that would be amazing.
It would be, but that's for the weaker one that is roughly the same power as the Steam Deck. And you can get the Steam Deck for $399. So it makes it tough to make that justification unless you are somebody who really wants to play games that are only available on Windows
Correct.
or
Yeah.
games that are on Game Pass. Tuco Albuquerque says, "Aren't tariffs over? Tight, tight, tight." He didn't say that part, but I just added it in.
Good one. Yeah.
Aren't tariffs over? I mean, they are over and then they're back and then they're over and then they're back because they just keep flailing around. So even
And
if they tweeted out that it's all over, that is only a temporary over.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why Valve is in that note, right, unwilling to commit. Even though I read that as a commitment, they're unwilling to commit to prices remaining the same, right? We expect prices will remain the same, but the implication there is that they may change, right? So we don't know. They don't know. We don't know. Things have been very unpredictable these last 6 months, and I think we can expect them to continue to be unpredictable, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dog Inya, I think I got it wrong, but that's okay. I'm an
No, it's
old
good
man. I
enough.
can get these things wrong.
You're good. You're close enough.
They wanted to know, they were talking about screen size, and they're like, okay, so we had the Steam Deck, which launched with a 7-inch screen, and then the Steam Deck OLED went up to 7.4, I believe. And then we
Sounds right.
had the Lenovo Legion Go, which was an 8.8-inch screen, a monster screen. And then we went back down to 7 with the ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X. The Lenovo Legion Go S has, I think, an 8-inch screen, and then the Nintendo Switch 2 has a 7.9-inch screen.
Yep.
Throwing a lot of numbers around. Do
One
I got
more.
any of them? Oh, there's another. Go ahead.
PS Portal has an 8-inch screen, just about the same
Okay.
size as the
Yes.
Switch 2. Yeah.
The white one and the black one. I forgot the
Right.
name again.
Right.
The Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X.
Yes.
They have the same exact panel that is in the Lenovo or the ROG Ally, which is a 7-inch screen. Do you feel like having that 7-inch screen is something that you are willing to go back to from having a larger screen?
Yeah. So I think we're a decent way off from really having an 8-inch screen, because the reason I think that is, like, you have to keep the weight low down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you can add a bigger screen and not increase the weight, but it becomes a little more unwieldy than it is today. And so I think for an 8-inch screen, you really want something that is the weight of a Switch 2, is the weight of a Portal, where it's just kind of light. It's a big screen, so you want to be able to control it right. So that's what I expect. So I think we're a ways off from a PC handheld, like comfortably having an 8-inch screen. We've seen them try, right? We've seen Eye and Cocoon. I think that one's 9 inches.
Which is crazy.
It's insane. No, that one might be 8 inches. But I know we have there are a couple other ones that were like even more niche. I don't think they ever actually released. That were like 9 inches, and it's no one is buying those, right? But if we had a PC handheld that was the size weights of the Switch 2 or the Portal, although those would go bananas. But I think, yeah. So to answer your question, I would be comfortable with 7-inch, with actually 8-inch, right? Did we say no,
No,
7-inch for
the Ally,
yeah,
the Xbox Ally systems are going to have 7-inch screens
yeah.
because
I'm
they're the same
comfortable
as
with that.
the ROG Ally.
Yeah,
It's fine, but man, it is really nice when you got a bigger screen. You like
it is.
like, especially when you got old eyes like mine. It's nice to be able to see stuff. And like the one thing that Valve is always talking about is they really want text to be readable on these screens, and
Yes.
sometimes it's just not.
Yeah. I please, developers, I know you guys got a lot on your plates with all the different requests, but please make uh, text size an option that I can change
Yeah,
in the settings. Right, I want to be able to make bigger text, smaller text. So if you give me that, I will praise you. Thank you very much.
very much. Yes,
Yes.
even when I play games on my TV, I'm cranking the size of the text up so that I don't have to put on my glasses because I don't like to wear my glasses. Like they're heavy on my face. So 9 times out of 10, I just take these and I set them off to the side.
Yep.
And but if the developer makes the game and the text is even too small to see on my TV, then I gotta slap on my glasses so that I can
That's
see
it.
what's going on.
Yeah.
We got a couple. Okay. Well, let me refresh that because that didn't work. There we go. We got a couple of super chats that came in. One from Chrome Gear Versus, sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that. They said all I care about at the moment is RPCS3. That's PS
PS3.
something, PS3 emulation. Very good.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
say as the Ally X and Bazite enough. Also, is the D-pad on Ally X better than the Z1 Extreme? I get
The chip.
accidental. I don't understand how that
Yeah,
question.
maybe the Ally X better than the Ally, the Z1 Extreme version of the Ally, or the Z1 Extreme version of the Ally X, as
You mean
opposed
the
to the
Z1
Z2.
versus the Z?
He means the D-pad on the Xbox Allies, is how I'm
Okay.
reading that,
Okay.
versus the D-pads on the,
Current
current
allies.
Allies. Yes, that's how I'm reading
Yes.
that. I could be wrong.
That makes a
Um,
lot of sense. I
yeah,
think they're identical. I think
yeah,
that Linus said that they are identical.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
actually, Russ. I think it was Russ that said they were identical.
I was just about to say we can wait until next week.
Yeah.
I'm guessing when we'll have Russ and Carrie back, and they can answer that for us. But I'd be happy to ask them that.
Yeah.
As
I
far
will
as,
say, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, go for it.
Well, I will say that I have the Lenovo Legion Go S. The
Yeah,
D-pad on that,
you mentioned that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would almost say flawless. If you're
Wow.
okay with disc shaped d-pads, like I did the contra test essentially, no accidental diagonals at all, and then I did Street Fighter, no problem firing off the special moves. It
Nice.
was really good, and it's very comfortable, and the clickiness is just the perfect amount of clickiness, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For RPCS3, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with the state of RPCS3, even on the Steam Deck, right? So it really depends on what you want to play. So if you're looking to play, what is it, Persona 5, it's gonna be rough. Um, but I'm pretty happy with RPCS3 performance now. And then when you get to the Ally, it's even better because you can push it, and the CPU cycles really do help a lot. So being able to go above 15 watts and getting up to
Hmm.
25, it's really nice. So I expect RPCS3 on Xbox LIX Z2 Extreme to be, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I would say that that makes a lot of sense to me, because of the TDP limits of the Steam Deck versus those other Windows devices. I will tell you that I personally, I really only emulate 8 and 16-bit systems. Like, I don't care about the other systems nearly as much because I'm not nostalgic for those games.
Yeah.
Plus, at the same time, the games that were on, say, PlayStation, well, we'll say PlayStation 2 and forward, they're very similar to modern games.
Yeah.
You go back to 8 and 16-bit games, those games are not similar to the games that we generally have now. So when I go back to them, I feel like I'm getting more out of it. But that's just a
Yeah.
personal
I,
preference thing.
I have a lot of, I mean, I play a lot of PS1, PS2 games, and there's like a level of quirkiness, maybe jankiness, that is like absent in a way
Hmm.
from modern games because they were still like figuring it out, right? And I feel like now we're at the point where if you deviate too much from what people expect, then people are gonna kind of backlash. And so like we didn't have that in the PS1, PS2 days. So like there was just
Right.
like weird stuff all the time. Um, and then for PS3, PS4, and on, the reason I typically don't emulate a lot of that is because a lot of those games started to become available on PC. So starting with the PS3, a lot of games that you would be interested on during that PS3 era are on PC already. There are some exceptions like Super Stardust HD, at the time Persona 5 before that came to PC. Xbox 360 still has Geometry Wars, which is different than the Geometry Wars that we have on PC. So like there are some of those games, but there's not as much as PS2 and before that.
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense.
yeah,
Um, Jake sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that. They said, I lose all interest in what Microsoft is doing to tweak Windows for gaming. The second
the,
they couple it to the Xbox app and game bar. And I would say right now, I freaking hate Game Bar. It is very annoying. If they can fix it though, then hooray. I mean, I I constantly see these comments both just out on the regular internet and in the comments section of my YouTube videos basically. I constantly see these comments where they're like, "I hate this company and I hope that they fail." And they might be talking about Nintendo or they might be talking about Xbox or whatever. And that I don't understand, because if those companies fail, then that means that there's less competition. And anytime that you have more competition, things get better for us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you guys can all feel free to disagree with me on that. But I think the reason I'm very excited about what Microsoft is doing here is because it gives real competition to Valve. And if you're looking for any evidence of that, I think that Valve giving real competition to Microsoft is what may have spurned this on, because it's been 3 years since the Steam Deck came out, and all anybody ever says about the Windows handhelds is they're really awesome, but I hate Windows. And okay, not everybody says that, but a lot of people say it, and I say it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily actually hate Windows. I just want Windows to be better. I
Yeah.
just want it to be better.
Yeah. For the Game Bar, there was a time where, like, when it first launched, and this was before, so Steam Big Picture was around, but some of the things, so like Steam OS, I believe, wasn't out yet. I mean, Steam OS 1 and 2 were, but not 3, right?
Right.
So like it was basically Big Picture and Game Bar, and Game Bar had some things in it that were really nice. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know recording a video was one of them, right? So like obviously on PC we've had so many like tools for recording video, but the fact that I could just go to the Game Bar and press the record button and it worked, that was really nice. And even on Steam Deck, right? The Steam Deck solution for recording video, it's okay. It's really nice when it works, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah,
And
I've gotten
sometimes
black screens.
yeah, right. So it's what I've never had that on Game Bar recording. So I think you're right that like yeah, there's some of that that like certainly I don't think Valve looked at Game Bar and then tried to be better than that, but both Microsoft and Valve were going for some similar things where having nice options for you available at the press of a button, and that competition, right? So Valve now kind of leapfrogging what Microsoft has done in Steam OS. I think that certainly has pushed Microsoft to do what they're doing now. So yeah, in some ways it's pretty self-evident that competition helps. Hopefully we see it go both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want Microsoft to push to make Valve say, okay, let's make this better. And then I want Valve to push to make Microsoft say, all right, we've got to do this better. And I think at the end of the day, when that happens, we, the users, win. I have never been somebody. I mean, look, I had a podcast that was all about the Steam Deck. I had a podcast that was all about Nintendo. I I understand that sometimes people kind of get into these little rabbit holes and they're like, I like this company and I hate this company,
Yeah.
but they're companies. They're not people. They're not your friends. They're not your enemies. They're just somebody who's out there trying to make a buck. And that's perfectly fine as long as you think of them not as people. It's not Gabe, it's Valve. Valve is a company. Sometimes they do good things, sometimes they do bad things. And people always seem to do this thing where they're like, well, they can't do anything bad if they're Valve, and Nintendo can't do anything good if they're Nintendo or Microsoft or whoever.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous the number of people who like they think like that all the time.
Yeah. I hate all companies, so I treat them equally.
Yes, they're all the worst. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. We also got another super chat came in from Genomorph, another $5. Thank you so much. They said, "Hey Bill, would it be okay if I promote a decky load of a plugin a friend and I have been making? We've made Steam Deck ad hoc functional." I don't know what you mean by that, but I think you're better off posting that over on like the Steam Deck subreddit, because you'll get a lot more eyeballs on it if you do. I'm assuming that you're talking about allowing people to connect to other Steam Decks for multiplayer gameplay without having Wi-Fi, which is something that Nintendo has done very, very well. And I even made a video when the Steam Deck first came out saying I would love it if Valve would steal this. If that's what you're talking about, post it over at the subreddit, and you know, if it's interesting, we'll talk about it in a future episode of the show.
Yeah. I feel like I remember this. I don't know how long it's been in development, but I feel like I remember some sort of ad hoc plugin. Yeah, it's something that people have been asking for a long time from Steam Deck is to have something like this available. And like you said, Nintendo did it very well. So I would love to see something like this for Steam Deck for sure.
Absolutely. All right. I told the chat to not let us forget about something. I'm scrolling back to find it. I said, don't let us forget about Xbox games on these new handhelds. So we're talking about the Xbox Ally, the Xbox Ally X, the white one, the black one, and they are PCs, but they're PCs with the Xbox logo on them. When people go to the store, they expect, when you buy an Xbox, they expect this is going to play my Xbox games. Now, obviously, that is not the case if it's a disc. If you bought a game on disc, you won't be able to play it on this device because it doesn't have a slot. Okay. But I mean, there's a lot of people who don't buy any games on disc. I'm one of them. All of my games are digital games. I'm part of the problem. I know. But if I can play my entire Xbox library, or at least a big majority of it, that is huge. But there's plenty of games that are Xbox games that are not PC games. Do you think Microsoft is going to make it so you can just emulate your Xbox, your old Xbox games that you have access to? So Rich bought Gears of War 2 on whatever system that was on. I can't remember which one, probably at 360. You know, he bought Gears of War 2, and then that was, I don't know if that, we'll pretend that that game is not on PC. Will he be able to play it on this new version of Windows because it's an Xbox? What do you think, Rich?
Yeah. I think there's almost no question that they're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they face, in addition to the technical challenge, once they figure it out, I think they still have to, like, I imagine that they're still going to have to, like, figure out the logistics in terms of, like, does this apply to third parties? Does,
Licensing
right, exactly.
nightmare.
Does this apply? I don't know. I feel like there's some logistics that they're still going to have to figure out. And oh, that was it. What about Game Pass, right? So like not Game Pass, but like online play. Do I, if you're playing the Xbox version of a game on PC, but you're playing it online, do you have to pay for an online
Oh,
subscription? Right. So like there's some of these things that they're gonna have to figure out. And I made a note in my video about the Xbox handhelds that they did not announce anything about any support for Xbox platform, but that's not to say that they won't announce it. I just don't think it'll be ready. Whatever it is, if they didn't announce it now, I don't think it's going to be ready in time for the launch of the Xbox Ally. So right now, I wouldn't suggest, thinking about buying an Xbox Ally if what you're looking for is either emulation of older Xbox platforms or like a translation layer for newer Xbox platforms. I wouldn't expect that. I think that's something that's probably at least a year out. I mean, like at this point, there's been articles on The Verge and stuff like that. They are pretty clearly working on it. It's one of those like worst kept secret sort of things. But I don't think that we'll see anything for some time.
yeah, because I mean, we were seeing at Summer Games Fest when games were announced, they no longer say. Usually, it would be like on Nintendo
Oh
Switch, on
yeah,
PlayStation, and on PC. Now it says on Xbox PC for some of them. And
yeah.
then I found this article that I'm going to try to put on screen over at GameSpot, which I'm going to put that on screen right now. And it says Xbox games have started appearing on the Xbox app on PC, and no one knows why. I think we all know why, GameSpot. Um, but basically, this was before the Xbox Game Showcase. It said that a range of Xbox games have begun appearing on the Xbox PC app. While not currently playable, this could be the first look at Microsoft's attempt to unify its PC and Xbox platforms by providing a single library for all of your purchases. I think that is really, really compelling. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I think that's really compelling, and to me it's something that they have to do if they're going to, if everything is an Xbox, they really have to figure out how do you get people that have a current library to be able to play that library. Someone in the comments, I want to mention him, so I'm gonna look them up real quick. I think it's, yeah, Seanbo88 said Xbox Play Anywhere will be their path for bringing Xbox games to PC, and that could be a good enough solution, right? If they figure out how to get that working, um, for previous releases, then that should be no big deal, right? So that'd be awesome. I think one of the things is that, people aren't just bringing their Xbox Series collection, but they might also be bringing their Xbox One collection and their Xbox 360 collection.
Yeah.
So how does Microsoft bring all of that? And they could just throw up their hands and say we won't do that, but everything that they've been doing for the last few years tells me that's not what they're going to do. They're not just going to throw their hands up and say, you don't get to bring your library over. I think they're working hard on how do they accomplish this. I don't know that they'll succeed, but they're going to try.
So, I mean, we were talking about this, when it was all just rumors. And I said that I think during a previous episode of the podcast, I said, I think that their best move is just to do it with all of their stuff that they have the licenses for, and then say, oh, well, if you want access to this game, well, you're going to have to talk to your publisher about that,
Yeah.
because that's out of our control, because that puts downward pressure on the publisher to make it available. Some publishers will be like, okay, yeah, we'll do it because it's good PR, and it's not like they're losing money on this anyway, because all they have to, if Microsoft is doing all the work,
Right.
all they have to do is sign the deal.
Yeah.
I think that is a no-brainer for most publishers. But there's also going to be publishers that hold out against it. If you're looking
100%.
for a perfect example of this, look at GeForce Now. GeForce
Ooh.
Now, when it first launched, they were just like, all your games are now available, and you just rent a PC from us and you play in the cloud. Awesome. And then the publishers sued them and they said, no, thank you. We don't want that. And GeForce, I don't understand why a publisher would do that, because basically you're increasing the number of people who are going to be willing to give you money, because it's not like they were letting people play these games that they didn't buy. It was games that you bought, and the publishers still said no. And there's still plenty of games that are not available on GeForce Now, even though if it were, they would sell more games.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the potentially DLC, right? We talk
Right.
about that a lot with Game Pass. Uh, it's a To be honest, that seems like a tough problem to solve, right? Like as a publisher, what would I choose? And because I see your point, but it's also like I'm not in control, and I certainly don't advocate for like publishers to be in control of everything, but I can see how they would like kind of balk at that at first glance. But I do think they have to give it more consideration and think about what is the actual trade-off. So yeah, but I will say for Xbox, they clearly have a lot more sway here, right? They
Yes.
have much better relationships, and these are relationships that they have established, right? So these are not, Nvidia doesn't always work with publishers, but Microsoft is literally always working with publishers, right?
Yeah.
So we should see that bear some fruit. I would hope so.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
It's funny, Mojal in chat. Hopefully, I said your name right, Mojal. They said, I love GeForce Now, but the problem is that less than half of my Steam library are compatible with it. That's not true. Your entire Steam library is compatible with GeForce Now. It's just that the publishers have said, no, you can't play it on GeForce Now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's compatible. They're just not interested.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we got another super chat that came in from Alexandra Enriquez, I believe, and they said, real quick, Steam Deck or Legion Go for 499 new. What do you think, Rich?
So Alexandra seems to be active in the chat. So please tell me what games you like to play because
Oh, there you
that
go.
very much sways my opinion. So for example, I have someone that I know that was recently in the market for what they specifically said, how do I play Blueprints? That's all they asked, right? And they asked this of like a group of us. And I was like, Steam Deck, right? Like clearly Steam Deck, right? You could
Mostly when you play Blueprints, it's like this.
how do you
It's
play
confused.
Blueprints? Very confused. Yeah. Yeah. So like if you're looking to play indies, if you're looking to play your backlog, I think that the Steam Deck is still the best bang for your buck and you get better battery life than you would with the original Legion Go. He's talking about the original Legion Go.
Mhm.
You get better battery life than you would, even though it's a pretty good battery life on the Legion Go.
More
Uh,
comfortable too.
okay. You find the Legion Go more comfortable. That's what you're
No,
saying,
no,
or you said
no.
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck is more comfortable than the Legion Go, but the Legion Go is not bad.
Yeah, 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 agreed. Um, if you are playing first person shooters, online gaming, specifically like, like Fortnite, anything with anti cheat, um, or maybe the latest games like, I don't know. Some people have pointed to like Oblivion Remastered and Doom to Dark Ages as games that don't play well on the Steam Deck, and they don't. But my my impression from other people's opinions is that they don't play well on any handheld yet.
Right.
Okay,
That's
right.
the thing. Well, okay. There are constantly people who say this plays just fine on this device, and then you
Yeah.
see their screenshots, and you're like, "Woof, that looks rough."
Yeah.
And if you're okay playing it like that,
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine. That is
Yeah.
playable for you, and everybody has different different resistances
Yeah.
to not a game not looking good.
Yeah.
So when you hear people say it doesn't play well on Steam Deck, but it plays well on these other systems, I would say, yeah, these other systems are a little bit more powerful than the Steam Deck, but not like an order of magnitude or anything. They're just a
No.
little bit more powerful.
No. He did answer, so thank you. So he said games like Baldur's Gate 3, FS22. What is FS22? While you
FS22.
look that up, Dave the Diver, Celeste, Manor Lords, Divinity Original Sin, Power Wash Simulator, and
Oh,
he
Farming
also said,
Simulator.
I love, oh, Farming Simulator. I love a lot of AAA games, but the old ones. So in that case, I feel like the Steam Deck is the better option. Baldur's Gate 3 is rough on the Steam Deck and is considerably better. Not considerably better. It is better on the Ally and the Legion Go. So Baldur's Gate 3 might be a little bit tough, but I think every single other game you mentioned is better, not better, is just as good on the Steam Deck, and you'll probably get better battery life and better options, right? So I think you'll enjoy it more on the Steam Deck than you would with the Legion Go. That's my thought, my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that Rich makes some really good points there. Um, I think that go to Best Buy, buy a Legion Go, bring it home, try it out. If you don't like it, return it, and then buy the Steam Deck. That's my advice.
That's
Um,
fair.
Blue Broham is a member now here at the Nerd Nest for 3 months. They said, "Do Switch 2 cartridges taste like Switch ones?" I didn't taste a Switch 1 cartridge because I don't eat things that are not food,
Do
but
you have a Switch 2 cartridge?
I don't. I only have
Oh,
a Switch 1 cartridge, and I'm
yeah.
not going to lick a Switch any
But
cartridge
he's a
because I
member.
heard they
No, you
tell.
have he's a member. You have to go you have to go buy one right now
Oh,
and look.
when yeah? I'll
Yeah,
get right
yeah.
on that. So, have you licked the cartridges, Rich?
No, no, no. I haven't. I haven't. I can't say I have. I've seen the memes, right? And
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that during Bob Wolf's video he didn't get a Switch 2 cartridge to report back on the taste. I wanted to know, but I don't want to taste it myself. No.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. And guess what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's awesome that they do that though. Like that's something that they should do for SD cards. They should do it for
Yeah.
all of that little stuff
Yeah.
because these things are tiny
Yeah.
and little kids can find them and eat them. So,
That's true.
you don't want to have that.
What's the
Um,
better meme? Switch cartridges or Steam Deck vent?
Well, okay. I'm not chronically online like like a lot of people,
You
so
know
I
the
don't see
Steam
the
Deck
memes.
vent.
I know that people sniff the vent, but I don't know
Yeah,
if
that's
there's a
all.
meme. Like, what's the meme? Like,
That's
is
the
there like
meme.
a when you say meme, I think this is gonna make me sound
You're
really
looking
old.
for like an actual like
I'll
image
look for
with
a
impact
picture.
fonts. Yeah,
Yes,
no,
thank
no, no.
you.
Yeah, no. It's just that's a it's a yeah, now I want to think of the Metal Gear Rising quote. Have you seen that? Memes are the something.
No,
Uh, the Metal Gear, and mind you, Metal Gear Rising came out well before like memes became a thing. But it's like memes
right.
are the heart of the soul. I don't know what he says, but yeah,
In Metal Gear Rising?
in Metal
Well,
Gear Rising.
the word meme has been around for a
Yes.
very long
Yeah,
time. I
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
remember who came up with it, and I'm not going to look it up right now because this is going to bring up awful things on my screen.
Yeah. Memes are the DNA of the soul. That's what it is. Memes are the DNA of the soul. And this is, well, like you said, memes were a word, but memes weren't what they are now. Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Andy Ackerman sent in another $5 super chat. They said, thank you very much. That's not what they said. That's what I said. They said, you are definitely the top two panel members here today. Never forget that. You know what?
I,
You're not wrong. Carrie
that's
and
a fact.
Russ, they're not doing a very good job on the show right now.
They're not
They
at
haven't
all.
said a thing, and I don't appreciate it. um,
100%.
Vardan, I'm not going to try and pronounce that because I'll screw it up. They said, how will SteamOS hold any advantage for normal people? I don't know what you mean by normal people, but I'm assuming that you mean people who don't want to fiddle with desktop mode. I would say SteamOS is fine for that. And I mean, unless you're trying to play games that require DRM or anti cheat, you're fine on SteamOS. Like
Yeah.
it's not. You don't have to go into desktop mode unless you want to. That's the thing I like most about Steam Deck
Yeah.
and SteamOS.
I think it definitely depends on what the question means for sure. And the way I read it is like, what what do you get as a normie when you go to SteamOS, right? Like if I've never tried SteamOS and I'm a normie, what is in it for me? And it depends on which kind of normie you are, right? Are you a PC gaming normie or are you a console gaming normie? Because those are two different solutions,
Very
right?
different.
Right. So I think what a console gaming normie gets is the ability is all the things you get from PC gaming, right? Is you get the library, huge library, you get these deep discounts, you get Steam input, right? So you get all of these things that are not available on console, and you get them with the Steam Deck. What a PC gaming normie gets, maybe they care a little less than the console gaming normie, but what they get is the streamline of a console. It's not quite as streamlined as a console, but they get that more streamlined. So and that it's very important for the handheld experience to have that streamlined experience. So you get, settings that are reasonable and easy to get to and things like that.
Hmm.
And you have, recording options that are much easier than they were in the past, rather than trying to like set up the fraps and have the
Fraps,
key
holy shit! I haven't heard that in a long time.
right, set up fraps and then hit the button to record. No, you have a reasonable recording option that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but neither here nor there.
That you just brought up something that we hadn't talked about yet that I think is really friggin' important,
Yeah.
and that is on SteamOS. When you want to play a game that was not built with a controller in mind, you can do that. Like I have videos that I posted, like tutorials for how to play real-time strategy games using the trackpads on the Steam Deck, and it's not just use the mouse as the trackpad. You can do crazy things with Steam input. On the new Xbox systems, the handhelds that they're working on, and eventually the operating system that I want to install on my desktop because I have NVIDIA hardware, are you going to have access to that? To not to Steam input, but is Microsoft going to have a solution for those games that are not that they're PC games, but they require a mouse and keyboard?
Right, right. That's a great question. And like it reminds me of another comment that was made earlier where someone said, and I'm not going to be able to find it now, but they said, like, I would love to see a Windows game scope, right? So like all operating systems have compositors, but GameScope is pretty special compositor because it's going to set the game window to the resolution that you want it at. It's going to, you can apply FSR at that level, right? So GameScope is a really like special, highly tuned compositor for gaming. And will Microsoft do the same thing? Because, oh, here's an example, right? The landscape versus portrait. So you fire up, I think it's Oddworld that Fox always fires up, Oddworld,
Hmm.
Abe's Odyssey. If you try to fire that up on a Windows machine, because it's meant for a landscape, not a portrait, and you fire it up on, say, something that is natively portrait, it's gonna crap out. But because GameScope handles all of that, it doesn't crap out by default. So is Microsoft not just going to support games that don't support control pad, but will they support games that have problems like that, right? Like just have problems that in modern Windows they are not as compatible as they were on Windows 7 or whatever Windows they came out at. So that could be something that Microsoft has to address too. We always talk about the compatibility problem with SteamOS, but there are games that are just not compatible with modern Windows the way SteamOS, the way they are compatible with SteamOS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Elliott in chat says, does the new Xbox mode from Microsoft, I guess he means the new Windows version, from Microsoft, support instant off on? So, basically you just, when you're playing a game, like we've all done it on Switch, and then when the Steam Deck came out, we did it on that too. You hit the power button, it shuts off, it goes to sleep, it sips the power, it lasts a really long time, and then you pick it up later, you turn it on, and you are instantly right back in the game. They said that it's going to use a lot less battery when you are in sleep mode,
Yeah.
but they didn't say whether or not it has a more graceful sleep wake system than current Windows, which is pretty terrible. I've tried it on a billion different Windows handhelds, and every single time I shut a game off or I shut the system off and I come back later, when I turn it back on, it does not gracefully come back. I always have to fight with it, and I don't want
I
to
feel
fight
like
with
I
it.
haven't had nearly as many problems with like suspend resume on Windows as other people have had. Like even before Steam Deck was out, I had the GPD Win Max, and certainly there were some games that, and it seemed like it was a per game basis, so maybe that was the problem because
Mm,
there were some games where like yeah, it would audio wouldn't come back up or the window would
right.
now be weird, right? So there were some games where that happened, but it felt like my hit rate, like I thought I was like 90 plus percent. And 10% of failure is pretty bad now that I'm saying it out loud. But I don't know. I thought that was if it's not designed for that to just work 90% of the time, I thought that was pretty impressive.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Though that those 10% times when it happens, it is so frustrating. You're like,
Yeah.
come on. And especially because sometimes I turn it back on and the screen is now huge,
Yeah.
but it's outside of the bounds
Yeah.
of the like I can't see the menu, and I'm like, I want to save my game, but when I hit the start button or the whatever the buttons, the menu button, it like I can't see what I'm supposed to do. And so I have to force quit the game, which is
Yeah.
always annoying.
Now that you say that, maybe part of the reason I didn't have as bad of a time is because I was on a GPD Win Max and I had access to the keyboard like right there.
Oh,
So I
that's
could
true.
like alt enter to do like full screen. I would like alt enter again to sort of kind of revert back to full screen. Yeah,
Because
that's
because
probably
as
it.
soon as you know how to fix something, it
Yeah, yeah,
becomes
yeah,
second nature. You're just like pop, 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 pop,
yeah,
and it works.
yeah. So yeah, I bet that's what it was. I just knew how to work around it.
Yeah. Frost sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for that. They said, I've never tried licking a Switch cartridge before, but I just tried it out of curiosity. Not recommended.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? We told you. We told you it was bad.
But for science,
For
right?
science.
So
That's
we
right.
appreciate your contributions.
That's right. Stinville93 also sent in a super chat. Thank you. They said, if you have an Ally X, would you say the Xbox Ally X is basically the Ally X minus the SoC controller triggers small performance bump 10 to 20%? Yeah, essentially it is the same. Like it's straight up the same thing, slightly different shell and different power.
Yeah, yeah. If I had like, if I was not YouTubing, right, and I'm
Yeah.
just and I had the ROG Ally X, and I hear the Xbox Ally X is announced, I'm like, cool. I'm not going to spend another however many dollars to buy a new one, right? I'm sticking to my ROG Ally X. I don't think it's something that you have to like upgrade to. I think you nailed it, right? Some triggers, the impulse triggers, the controller, 10 to 20%, just like you said. Nothing crazy.
And if you get it, or if you don't want to upgrade, hopefully the software will just trickle over to the other handhelds, and then you get
That's right.
2 gigabits of, or 2 gigs of savings on system resources. You won't have as much power because it's a Z1E versus a Z2 or Z2E. You So you won't have as much power, but I like it's got the same amount of RAM. I think the RAM is faster on the new one than it is on the ROG Ally X, but still, I mean, it's not enough of a bump to warrant going out and spending money on it. Which is why at the beginning of this conversation I said way more excited about software than I am
Yeah.
about the hardware.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're speaking from what we see of the specs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe once we see some benchmarks or we get some benchmarks of our own, it might be different, but that's what I suspect based on what we've seen so far.
We had a couple of questions that somebody had sent in earlier that I added to. I have 14 messages. None of these are from you. The Discord messages. And that's probably
No.
all Carrie.
Oh yeah. Carrie
Okay.
and
I
Russ.
only
Yep.
have so many windows that I can have open at the time. We had a couple messages that somebody had sent in earlier. X86 to go said, was asking about the Switch. They said, is that hinge as thin as it looks? It looks like you may be able to twist it crooked. It is very thin. It is solid as hell. He's talking about the Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch too.
Yep.
This kickstand is very good. And yeah, if I really wanted to, I could bend it, but you're not going to do it by accident, if that makes any sense, or at least I don't think you would. Although I did see a video, I saw a video of this car going through a car wash, and somehow their trunk opened up, and then the little thing came down and picked up the trunk and just
No.
completely destroyed the car.
Oh, ouch.
But
Yikes.
so I'm not saying you can't break the kickstand on the Switch 2, but if you're careful with your technology, which you should be, I think you're going to be okay. It's a very
Yeah.
satisfying kickstand, though, isn't it?
It is really satisfying. Yeah. And I don't know. I like that it's like thin like this, not thin in terms of the material, but like that it's like hollow. And
You
like
do.
I do like that. Like I know the Lenovo Legion Go's got and the OLED too, right? The Switch
Yeah.
OLED, it's got that like big uh flat kickstand, but I like this. I like this design.
I think that this is better
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
It's more stable, I think.
That's
But I
fair.
don't think that the design that we have on the Switch 2 is a bad design.
Yeah.
We also had a question from Ash to Crawl. They said, "Do we think it's worth upgrading from ROG Ally X to the Ally?" Oh, we just kind of answered that question, so
Yeah.
I guess not. So I'm not going to go through that again.
Yeah.
And then we had another super chat for $10 from Vardan. Thank you very much for the support. They said, "Xbox handhelds and future Microsoft subsidized hardware with store presence, Xbox brand recognition, less Windows bloat, Game Pass, Steam OS / deck, maybe suspend. I want the Steam Deck to succeed in Q2 LCD."
Man, that's a throwback. He just told us what his remember that
Remember
when
that? Yes.
we were all like Q2 512. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What a throwback. That's
I
awesome.
was Q2 with the one that I bought,
Yeah.
but then Valve sent me one
Yeah.
one day before launch. It showed up at my house.
Yeah. I think I think I was Q2, but I think it like there was like a small delay, so it ended up like I was in late Q2 and ended up getting it early Q3. But same like
Right.
you, I got mine from Valve. I think it was like the day of. I got it on February 25th when they started shipping out or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was nice.
Basically the day that the Gabe video came out where he
Yeah,
went around
yeah,
delivering them.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was like, maybe he'll come to my house. No,
yeah,
just in Seattle.
yeah. But yeah, I can't wait to see what Valve does with Steam Deck 2. That said, there's I'm working on my third video, should be out by next week. And I talk about an article that is I can't what is it? I no longer can care about the Steam Deck 2 or something like that. And I totally understand that, right? Like we have no idea when it's coming. We have no idea like what Valve will do. And like I said earlier, like yeah, Valve can be kind of fickle when it comes to hardware, where if it's not the right circumstance, they will not do it, which I can appreciate. I can
Yeah,
admire.
that's why it's good.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
that's one of the things that I used to say about Blizzard all the time is Blizzard will take an almost Blizzard will take a finished game, and if they're not happy with it, they will just throw it in the trash. That's what happened with Overwatch.
Yeah.
Overwatch started out as as an MMO. It was an MMO, and then they decided, you know what, this is not up to our standards. So they just took all of those assets and turned them into a first person shooter and into a hero shooter instead. And it worked out really, really well. Blizzard had StarCraft Ghost, which was a first-person shooter in the Star Trek in the StarCraft universe, and they just threw that in the trash because they didn't feel like it was up to the standards. And if every company out there did that kind of thing where they just say, "You know what? We're not going to ship this game because it's not up to our standards." I think we'd all have a lot better more less stinkers in our libraries, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had not
Yeah.
sent you any messages before, but I did send you one now.
Oh,
While,
okay.
while you look at that, someone said the next Steam Deck 2, Mojo said the next Steam Deck 2 should have higher performance mode docked like the Switch 2. I kind of like what Valve has done with Steam Deck, where like they kind of disregard whether you're docked or in handheld mode. Now, if they made a dock that like also gave you a fan and cooled down the Steam Deck, then it would make sense that you can push it a little further. But I like otherwise, I like the idea that I just am at all times in control of whatever I want it to be.
Yeah, well, you also have to keep in mind that when you're talking about the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, those games were made with the idea that there are two modes to the game in mind. And so they have I'm sure that Nintendo has like an API that makes it easy for them to say, okay, well, as soon as the person docks
Yeah.
this, do these things. The Steam Deck and all of these other PC handhelds, they don't have that. I'm sure that they don't have like that API call or whatever. And so what happens is if you do that and then suddenly the power starts changing or whatever, like I think Russ talked about what it's like using the XG mobile
Yeah.
um what the hell is that thing
For the
called?
ROG. Yeah. ROG Ally plus the XG mobile something. It had a number on it.
External graphics
GPU.
card. Yeah,
eGPU. Yeah.
GPU. Thank you. It's basically it's a GPU. Um, he always had to shut his game off and then
Yeah.
plug it in and then turn it back on, and that's because the games were not made with that functionality in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like something that I don't expect Valve to solve, but I will say if anyone can solve it, I think it would be Valve and Linux, right? Just figuring out like, can we suspend the game state in RAM somehow and then rehydrate it, right? Like, can we do that? I don't know. It seems like a really difficult problem to solve, but it would be cool if it was solved.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Um, but yeah, that would be really cool, and it would make a lot of sense to have a dock that would have a built-in GP, like external GPU. So you just drop it in there, just like you do on the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, and it engages that external GPU, and suddenly you've got all this power. But
Yeah.
the games aren't made that way, and I don't know if it'll work. But I love the idea. And Blue Broham is saying PCs can already switch between integrated and dedicated graphics on the fly. They can, but quite often they don't do it gracefully. And that's the thing about the Switch and the Switch 2. When you plug it in, it's this graceful switch. The end user never has to think about it. The end user has to think about it on PCs quite often.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, listen, we barely scratched the surface with the Switch 2, and we've barely scratched the surface with the Xbox handhelds. And we didn't talk about a single game that got announced at Summer Games Fest. So we
Jeez,
can't.
yeah.
We didn't talk about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So listen, look for the next episode of the Nerd Nest podcast. Hopefully the other guys will be back with us and we will have more to talk about with all of that stuff, plus more experience with this thing. The one thing that I want to say that I definitely want to talk about next time, and I'm saying this out loud so that Rich will remind me because I have a very flighty memory. I want to talk about how people are upset at Nintendo for having not an OLED screen in this, but then when the Xbox allies have VRR instead of OLED, they're all like, "Oh, that's fine."
That we should talk about that. I will say I have seen people upset that allies don't have OLED. There,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
There's
Yeah,
definitely some double standards out there, I think.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yep.
But Rich, you're back. You've been making videos again. Your
Don't tell
sabbatical.
anyone.
Okay. Hey,
I'm
listen,
kidding. I'm kidding.
all of you guys who are watching, don't tell anybody that Rich is making videos again because he doesn't want anybody to know.
Yes, I'm back. Yeah.
He's back. What are you cooking for next week, roughly?
Yeah, so the main next thing I'm cooking is a video, like I said, about a article from xdadevelopers.com. I think it's a good article, but there are points I agree with, points I disagree with. The article is, like I said, something about how I just can't care about the Steam Deck 2 anymore. And because it was a well-written article and kind of put some really good points forth, I did want to like react to that, so that's what I did. I may make a video. Did you end up seeing? I know I linked it to the channel. Did you end up seeing is it Bringus videos about the Steam Deck prototype, the $3,000 prototype?
And so I saw the thumbnail, but as a
Yes.
school teacher at the end of
Yeah.
the school year, I've got way
Yeah.
too much
You
going
got
on.
way too
and
much
then
going
Summer
on.
Games Fest and
Yeah.
Switch 2 and Xbox stuff. It's like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to even look at it.
Well, I may make a video talking about that, but when you get a chance, it's like a 30-minute video. So carve aside some time.
Yeah.
It's such a good video. Yeah.
I
So,
can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And it's doing numbers. It's definitely doing
Oh
numbers.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have tomorrow, although I was considering putting it out today, but then I have the podcast today. I've got my full review for the Switch 2, so make sure that you guys click on subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss that. And thank you all for hanging out with us live. You guys could have been anywhere, but you decided to spend the last almost 2 hours with us, and there were, like well over 400 people here at some point. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you want to see more live stuff here on the Nerd Nest, let us know in the comments section down below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. That's Rich. Stay awesome, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
I said stay awesome instead of stay rad. Who am
Well,
I?
Stay